What is up, everybody? Coach Juma here, head nutrition coach and trainer at Stupid Fit. And today we're going to be talking about how to bias your quads and how to bias your glutes for literally any leg workout. And this just comes from understanding how the glutes and how the quads work. So we're going to be breaking down the differences between a quad bias and a glute bias movement. And as always, we're going to be summing it up at the end with our simple summary. So we're going to be working with two examples here, a machine example, which is going to be the 45-degree leg press, and a body weight example, which is going to be the Bulgarian split squat. But again, these are just two examples. You can take these principles and apply them to any exercise that you want to bias the quads more or bias the glutes more. So let's get into it. So starting off, it's important to know what the quads do and what the glutes do. The main function of the quads is assisting with knee flexion and extension. So when the knee is flexed, it is in the fully stretched position. When the knee is extended, it is going to be in the concentric position. It's going to be fully contracted. So flexed is when your knee is bent. Extended is when your leg is straight. The glutes, however, work with the hips. So when the hips are fully flexed, which means that your thigh is close to your torso, you are stretching out the glutes. You're in the full stretch of the glutes. When your hips are extended, which is similar to standing up, your hips are forward, your torso and thighs are in line with each other. That is when the glutes are fully contracted. So now we just take that principle and apply it to these different exercises. How can we put more knee flexion and extension in an exercise? And how can we put more hip flexion and extension in an exercise so you can bias either the quad or the glutes? Well, on the leg press, it really comes down to your foot position on the platform. I'm sure you've seen a lot of people do a lot of different foot positions and you're not sure where to put your own feet. But for leg press, it's really easy to keep this idea. And again, this is going to apply to any machine. So if you want to bias the quads, you're just going to put your feet lower on the platform so that your heels are toward the bottom. The reason you want to do this is because this is going to create the most knee flexion at the bottom of the leg press. As you can see from the side angle, the knee is fully flexed, my calf is touching my hamstring, my knees are going past my toes, and there's a good amount of flexion happening at the ankle as well. So the knee is traveling forward past my toes. Again, the calf is touching the hamstring. There's a lot of knee flexion happening. And then when I push up and extend my knee, driving my knee backwards toward my heels again, now it's tensioning the quad and focusing on the quad because it was in the fully stretched position to start off with. Whereas if you want to bias the glute, you want to limit the knee flexion and limit the ankle flexion. And to do that, you just got to put your feet higher up on the platform. So when you put it higher up on the platform, by the time your knees come down towards your body, you can feel your thighs closing in on your torso, and there's a high degree of hip flexion happening, which is stretching out the glute. The ankle isn't really bending, the knee isn't fully flexed or nearly as flexed as it was with the quad dominant exercise, as you can see in the side by side, and that's gonna put more tension on the glutes. And as you drive forward, your hips are extending and creating that glute contraction. So the main difference here is foot positioning on the platform. And again, this can apply to the 45-degree leg press that you see here. It can apply to a horizontal leg press, a hack squat, any machine where you're putting your feet on a platform. You can adjust it to create more quad tension or more glute tension. No matter where your feet are on the leg press though, you never want to rotate your feet too far out. You've probably heard that this could create more glute tension because of the sumo position, but it really doesn't do anything at all. It actually limits glute tension and contraction because you can't create as much hip extension doing that. So just keep your feet in a comfortable position, slightly rotated out if that's more comfortable for you, or pointing straight forward. There's no right or wrong way to do it. It just comes down to comfort, but excessive rotation is completely unnecessary. All right, so now how can you apply this same principle to bodyweight exercises? It's gonna be the same exact idea. For Bulgarian split squats, for instance, we're gonna talk about the quad biased version first. You wanna keep a tall torso first and foremost because you don't want the hip to be flexed too much. And when you're coming down on the descent of the Bulgarian split squat, you really wanna focus on that knee drive forward, going past your toes or forward towards your toes as far as you can, getting max knee flexion, getting max ankle flexion, and again, putting your quad in that fully stretched position so that when you go to stand up, the knee is the one that has to be working. It's extending backwards and straightening out your leg, creating that concentric contraction on your quad. So now this is a quad focused movement because you're focusing on where the knee is traveling and how far forward you can go to create that stretch. When you want to focus on the glutes though, again, it's going to be focusing on the hips. So what you can do to help with that is give yourself a slight forward lean in the torso to kind of close that angle between your torso and your thigh, creating more hip flexion. Again, this is going to stretch out the glute as you go down. Now, the important thing here is to focus on keeping a vertical shin. Same kind of idea that we have with the leg press. Your ankle is going to flex as minimally as possible. It's really going to be a lot of hip, and you're going to be driving your hips backwards a bit more to make your way down into the squat. And you could really see the difference in the side by side here between the angles in the ankle and the knee and the hip. So with that forward lean, you're stretching out the glutes more. So as you stand up and you drive your hips forward to fully stand up again, you're going to be contracting the glutes more because they were in the fully stretched position at the bottom. So let's recap and go into our simple summary. So if you want to bias the quads with any single movement, whether it's on a machine or with any kind of body weight exercise or free weight exercise, it really comes down to knee flexion and ankle flexion. How far forward can you drive your knee toward your toes or past your toes to get that full quad stretch while maintaining a more upright torso? When it comes to biasing the glutes, it comes down to hip flexion. How much can you stretch your glutes by driving your hips backwards, closing the angle between your torso and your knee to create that full glute stretch, and extending forward, and really trying to just minimize ankle flexion the entire time. That'll be the main takeaway here between the two of them, is just recognizing and being mindful of your joint angles in any exercise that you're doing so you're working out the muscle that you intend to work out. Try it out on your next workout. Let me know how it goes, and as always, stay stupid.